Hi, welcome. I've got a big hot button topic today to discuss on the Roe versus Wade abortion topic that's going around all over the internet. And I kind of feel it's really important for us to both have our voices, male and female, even though it's always ultimately the female's decision. I think that the male should totally have an opinion on it too. So personally, I'm coming at this from a point of experience of both having kids, and I've also had an abortion quite a few years before Yuli came along, for personal reasons. Some may see it as unnecessary reasons, worrying about are you ready, finances, your position where you are in life. Um, I personally I do resonate with the pro-life stance on life is sacred, but maybe to a different level, in which I see life being so sacred that you shouldn't just bring life into existence on a whim because you think any life is better than no life. For me, it's about quality of life. There's no point in not considering the kind of life that the child's going to have, and also with the whole adoption option, that doesn't necessarily guarantee a life worth living. There's a lot of trauma in that world. So for me, I don't think children adopted in that manner do turn out having a great life necessarily. Often, more times than not, they don't. So there, that's where I stand on it. I'm on the pro-choice fence. I'm not with the woke left on many subjects, but with this one, I think it is a woman's right to choose. It's her body. A baby is certainly not a parasite, but it is what's the word? It's part of her body. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's an extension of a woman's body up to the point it can be viable by itself. So for me, that's when it can have full breathing capacity and breathe air from its lungs by itself. And obviously, earlier abortion is a much better option, but you don't know every woman's scenario, and that might not be an option. So I do think that that abortion for the whole term of the pregnancy should always remain an option and always be carefully considered. Your views, Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm pro-choice as well. It was that lovely one of you can't be on the right and say it's your body, your choice, and then all of a sudden it comes to abortion, and all of a sudden you lose that choice. And then what was it on the left? It was I don't know. Either way,
Yeah, on the left, it's often my body, my choice when it comes to abortion, but then when it's vaccine mandates or anything like that, suddenly they change their tune. So
it
on
should be
both
mandated.
sides, yeah,
So they
both
both kind
sides,
of
there's
they both
hypocrisy
well
going on.
they contradict each other, don't they? And for me, freedom is above and beyond all else. And also the crying shame here is that it's like anything in life is all of a sudden if you make a law or an act or pass a set of standards that need to be met by an external governing body and it's seen as okay or not, people will break the rules. People just will.
Yeah, it will happen regardless.
It will go underground to some dirty, disgusting places, and there'll
Hmm.
be some. And unfortunately, the other thing that here I haven't looked it up, but I'm just going to stab a guess at this is the main demographic it's going to affect is the poor young people,
And a lot of
where
people coming at their pro-life opinions are coming from a very privileged place of
a
being able
lot
to
of it
have the
is,
money
yeah.
and the
If
resources
you've
to
got the
raise
money
children.
to, and then also it's this lovely idea. Oh, well, you know you can have the baby and then put it out for foster. And trust me, we had somebody who was across the way from us who was born in poverty, was raised in poverty, and had a child in poverty. She was from the foster system, and then she gave her child up at 2 years of age into the foster system, and she still took the pushchair out for a walk without the baby, and she attempted to take her life
Yeah.
monthly, pretty much. It was more a cry for help than it was an
And
actual
there's
an
also
attempt.
people we
But the
know with,
reality is that
sorry.
no, that's irrelevant. Whatever you're talking
No,
about there.
I was just going to say, there's people that we've become aware of with severely disabled children, and they were coerced by the system that believed pro-life matters, that any life is better than no life, to have the child despite their condition. and it has gone on to ruin not just the child's life, who's never going to reach a certain development that they can function by themselves, and they're always going to be suffering, but that it affects then the whole family that then have to care for them.
Ruin is a strong word, but challenge, definitely challenge.
Yeah, it's
Challenge.
not a good quality of life for
Well,
them.
it's not ours to judge. You can't judge a person's quality, but yes, there seems to be challenges, shall we say, that are being faced, and that's because this is a challenging topic. Whether you do or whether you don't, you are going to face challenges. None of the decisions are easy, but the reality should be that you get support whichever way you choose. Now, I think you touched on it earlier as well. Earlier to abort is better. I can't personally see too many reasons, unless of course you find abnormalities in the pregnancy later on.
Yeah, it
And
should
then
ideally before 24 weeks.
ideally, yeah, and obviously closer it gets to full term, then yes, we are talking about a fully formed human being to an extent.
Personally, I wanted to do it as early as possible, but they do make you wait to a, I think, 12-week
12
period.
week period.
But there was no regret on my part. I think this fallacy coming about from the right that everyone that does it regrets it, that's, or has trauma related to it. Not at all with me. I knew I wasn't ready, and I've gone on to have three beautiful children that I'm really
My
happy
mum was
about.
a young mum, and there was no way I was doing the young dad thing.
Yeah.
And we obviously, and then they turn around and say, "Ah, you're reckless, and you didn't protect yourself." And I was like, "Oh yes, we did. Oh yes, we did." But it was just one of those scenarios where the protection didn't work. All of the other times, the protection worked, and hey presto, there was no baby and no need of a baby
And
to be
there's a
aborted.
thousand different reasons. It's not just rape and incest and the 1% that they go on about. There's a million and one different reasons why that validate why people aren't ready. And
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's not.
Candace Owens. I like a lot what she's about, but her list of reasons for
Yeah,
going to pro, what's this? She's on pro
pro-life. Yeah.
life. No, 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 no. Sorry, Candace, you've got this one absolutely bang smacking wrong. You ain't got a clue what you're talking about. You should have stayed on pro-choice. But it's your choice
I
to go on to pro-life.
understand
But it's a ridiculous choice.
the thing against Planned Parenthood. I understand the history of that and the dark history behind it. But abortion was occurring long before Planned Parenthood and these organisations ever came along. And women will always find a way, and whether it be powerful herbs or different ways, to be able to take control of their own life and their own body. So yeah,
We don't
for
know
me,
what they're
it's not.
facing, but we should try and understand what they're facing, not turn around and say you are this or that for making that decision. Yes, okay. I think more conversation, as always, more understanding conversation needs to be had between both sides. So it's not even. I'm a fan of choice, but I'm not part of the pro-choice manner. The only reason I'm pro-choice to give it is that because it just represents for me the highest form of freedom.
Yeah, medical freedom. It should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't start and stop at any topic. And as I say, I think that a child's human rights become separate from the mother when they are a separate, viable human and breathing their own air. Until then, they are part of the mother's human rights, and so it is her decision as to
It's not an
how
easy
she
decision,
does.
and we've got chickens or hens. Man, I tell you, those guys, they sit diligently on their eggs to raise their young. But we had
And
one
not every hen
scenario,
is broody, I think,
and
is
not
the
every
key.
hen is
They not
broody.
they don't all want to become
No,
mums,
they
so they
actually
won't all
pass the
sit on
egg
their
on to
eggs.
the broody hen. They're like, you do the job for me. But the point was we had one experience where by which a hen was sitting on the eggs, and then about 11 days in, which is the fetus has then started turning into a chick, and she just got off, and we couldn't understand it. Um, we'd never had that before,
No.
And then it turned out, funny enough, that red mites had actually got into her nest,
So it
and
was a
so
less than ideal environment for
it
her
was a
to
less
raise
than
her
ideal
children.
environment. So she just got off of the eggs and she
Same
never
as an
went back to them.
abortion. She said, "No, I'm
And in
not
each
doing
and
it."
every one of those 11 eggs was a little baby chick, because I opened each one up just to check what was going on in there. And so even in the animal kingdom, they know that if the environment isn't right or the scenario isn't correct, I think in the wild it perhaps is a little bit different, but there is still going to be scenarios whereby which either a mum leaves the nest in the bird world or the reptilian world, and that opens it up to being aborted in the fact that they've made it available
Nature
to a
is
predator
ruthless, though,
to
isn't
get
it?
in there and take it. So I think it's crazy. Out of 50 eggs laid by a crocodile, only one's going to make it to become a fully fledged crocodile. So the point is
Not
that,
everything that comes into
you're
existence
not
is
just all
meant
meant
to
to make
be.
it. They're
Yeah.
part of it's just part of a beautiful, sort of sometimes terrifying as well, weighing scales of this thing makes it and this thing doesn't. And of course there are things that you can do to increase your chances of it making it, and there are things that you can do to increase your chances of it not making it. But you're not really 100% in control. The idea of control is an illusion, and we might get into that in another video. So that's why, for me personally, I'm all about freedom and choice.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also within freedom and choice is discipline, accepting responsibility for your actions and consequences for your actions as well. So I dig all of that. It's not about ignorant neglect or not being able to stand up and say, hey, do you know what? I made a mistake. Hello, Mr. Seagull. Oh, let me should see them guys. They're young. Oof. Anyway, that's another story. Yeah, we just had a baby seagull, and that yap as that does. You almost want to kick that one out the nest. Joking, joking. It was lovely. It was beautiful, but my gosh, does it yap. And so yeah, so for me, it's a tough one, but you've got to kind of almost try and, in many respects, what we need to do as a collective people is move ourselves away from our opinions. Really, although I have the opinion of pro-choice and others have the opinion of pro-life, is really just consider
some compassion for other
is
people.
living well. Consider those young, not just the girls, but mainly the girls. It's for me, it's the young, poor. I don't want to mean to pick on that demographic, but they're frightened, they're alone, they don't have as much access to support financially or maybe emotionally as well, maybe spiritually, because you've got to remember that
And the answer isn't just
privileged
pass
world,
the baby on to someone that can afford it.
yeah,
And
no,
I think there's that memo that
you
you
can't just go
shared.
out and buy designer babies these days.
You
I
can't,
mean,
you
can,
can't,
but
you
you
can't
should.
adopt though,
That's
can
another
you?
great
As
thing.
a young girl who can get pregnant, you can't just go and adopt. You have to
Can't
have
adopt
money.
at 12,
You have
can't
to be a
adopt
certain
at
age.
18, you can't adopt at 20.
Yeah.
You got to have
So then, why
basically
should you be expected to have children at
you
that
get
age?
examined and profiled, and we know people who are in their late 40s who went for adoption to become foster parents, and they failed, and yet on the face of it, from what we knew anyway, there was just that financially they were okay, career wise they were okay, and relationship wise they were okay, but there was obviously something that flagged up, and I didn't inquire. And then I obviously know people who have gone through the foster system and they've managed to foster children and so on and so forth. But again, they said that it was a real kind of fine comb that was taken to them. So what are we saying here? We're saying that just because the law says that you shouldn't, or the right is passed on to the state to make its own laws, so on and so forth. It's just not backed up by
We're lucky
central
to be
government.
in the UK where it is
Yeah, we're in the
pro-choice
UK,
here.
so and also, but the scary thing is sometimes things cross the pond, but I don't think it will in this scenario. But people's voices can in fact impact people on both sides of the lake, so to speak. And so for me, if you're over there or anywhere, is if you come across somebody who's in that scenario, just try and help them out. Just try and help them out, and listen to their concerns, listen to their fears, listen to their worries, listen to their
I don't think
questions.
there's anything worse than an unwanted child. Even if that child is passed on to someone who supposedly does want them, that trauma is going to stay with them. And so for me, it's not just about pro-life. It's about, let's look at the quality of life this child is going to have in the long run and the trauma that it's going to leave with them. And that for me sums it up. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, and please subscribe if you found this interesting. And we'll be back with another video, hopefully on breastfeeding next. Okay, take care, bye.